Welcome to the deep dive. This week, we're looking at something pretty extraordinary out of Kyiv. Happened just recently. On July 10th, that was 2025, a Ukrainian SBU colonel, Ivan Voronic, was assassinated right in broad daylight.
Really brazen.
Totally. Caught on surveillance cameras. Just a shocking thing to see. But, what's almost more incredible is the response. Just 3 days later, Sunday the 13th, the SBU, that's the Security Service of Ukraine, they announced they'd tracked down the suspected Russian agents and killed them.
So an incredibly swift retaliation.
Exactly. It wasn't just, another news item. This felt different. It really highlights the intensity of these covert operations that are just constantly bubbling under the surface.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to dive into the details of this specific incident. We're looking at reports from CBS News, AP, Reuters, and Ukrainska Pravda, which is a major Ukrainian news source.
Right.
But we also want to connect it to the bigger picture, because this isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? There's this pattern of high-profile targeted killings going back since the invasion started. It's like a shadow war.
It's a good way to put it, because, most news focuses on the front lines, the troop movements, the drone strikes.
Sure.
But these operations, these targeted killings, they show a whole other layer of the conflict. It's crucial, but often unseen.
So it's not just about Colonel Voronic or even just the SBU response.
No, exactly. We need to explore what happened, how the SBU hit back so fast, but also, like you said, how does this fit this broader pattern, this back and forth of assassinations, retaliations, links to both Moscow and Kyiv, and Kyiv's even, sometimes openly claimed responsibility for some of these.
Right. So let's start with the attack on Voronic himself. The CBS report, and they were citing Ukrainska Pravda and SBU sources, it gave some pretty chilling details. The CCTV footage, apparently it shows a man, walking through a parking lot with bags. Then another guy just runs up and fires 5 times. Silenced pistol, they said.
Which implies a certain level of professionalism, doesn't it?
It does. And the SBU also said the assassins found the weapon at a prearranged hiding spot, coordinates given to them. So, deep preparation.
Yeah, meticulous planning.
The SBU statement actually highlighted that. So the team watched Voronic, learned his schedule, his routes. This was definitely not random.
No, absolutely not. And that level of planning, the reconnaissance, it points straight towards, professional intelligence work.
Right.
And it's also worth noting who Voronic reportedly was. Media reports suggested he was involved in covert ops inside Russian-occupied areas.
Yeah.
And maybe even involved in organizing that surprise Ukrainian push in Russia's Kursk region last year.
So potentially a very high-value target for Moscow.
Precisely. Not just an intelligence officer, but someone potentially hitting Russia directly, impacting their own territory. So his death, and then the SBU's incredibly rapid response, that sends a very clear, very strong message about the price of hitting someone that important operationally.
Yeah, you can really feel the intensity there.
Yeah.
The SBU even released footage later, didn't they? Showed 2 bodies on the ground. A pretty stark reminder of how brutal this hidden war is.
It is.
And like you were saying, this kind of targeted hit, while maybe dramatic this time, it's not exactly new in this conflict, is it? Moscow's been pointing fingers at Kyiv for a while now.
For quite some time, yes.
Yeah.
Accusing Ukraine of orchestrating a whole series of killings. High-profile figures, Russian military officials, pro-Kremlin commentators, going back to the start of the full-scale invasion in 2022.
Which really makes you think about how this war is evolving, how personal it can get for certain individuals.
Absolutely. And think about just back in April. An explosion near Moscow took out a senior Russian general in his car.
I remember that.
Yeah, images showed the vehicle just completely gutted. Looked very similar, actually, to an attack just 4 months before that. Another Russian general and his deputy killed by a bomb, also in Moscow. Suggests, a pattern. Targeting high-ranking military people.
And Kyiv has, in some cases, actually put their hand up and said, yes, that was us. Can you give us some examples there?
Sure. A really significant one was Igor Kurilof. He was the head of Russia's chemical weapons unit.
Okay.
Killed last December. Bomb planted in a scooter, again in Moscow. And Ukrainian security sources, SBU sources actually, told CBS News directly that they carried out that operation.
Wow. That must have been a huge blow and embarrassing for Moscow.
It certainly seemed to be. President Putin, who rarely talks about security failures, actually made a public comment afterwards, admitted there were failings, said things like, we must not allow such very serious blunders.
So killing Kurilof wasn't just taking out a person, it was hitting a specific capability and forcing Putin to acknowledge a security breach at home.
Exactly. It suggests a strategic choice, hitting the chemical weapons lead, and also demonstrating reach right into Moscow, forcing a public admission of vulnerability. That's a powerful combination.
And it's not just military figures being
Right.
targeted, right? Has this extended to, say, political commentators or other profiles?
Oh, most definitely. Back in December 2023, Ilya Kyiv, he was a former Ukrainian lawmaker, pro-Moscow, had fled to Russia. He was shot dead near Moscow.
Okay.
And Ukrainian military intelligence basically celebrated it. They put out a statement warning other traitors, as they put it, would meet the same end. A really stark message to anyone seen as collaborating.
Chilling.
Yeah. And even before that, you had the car bombing back in August 2022 that killed Daria Dugina. Her father's a very prominent ultranationalist figure.
Right, that got a lot of attention.
It did. And then April 2023, the explosion in the St. Petersburg cafe killed Maxim Fomin, the military blogger known as Vladlen Tatarsky. In that case, a Russian woman was convicted, said she was acting on orders from someone in Ukraine. So you put all these together, Kyiv, Dugina, Tatarsky. It shows a strategy targeting not just military people, but also those involved in shaping the narrative, political figures, symbols.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We started with this really audacious assassination of Colonel Voronic in Kyiv, followed by that incredibly swift, deadly SBU response.
Right.
Then we zoomed out to look at this wider, frankly grim pattern. Targeted killings hitting Russian officials, military figures, pro-Kremlin commentators over the last couple of years.
Some claimed by Ukraine itself.
Exactly. Some openly claimed.
Yeah.
It's clear these aren't isolated incidents. They escalate things. They show the reach of these intelligence agencies goes way beyond the front lines. It really is a war fought on multiple levels, many of them hidden.
Yeah, this deep dive really underscores that. The conflict isn't just about the front lines, the drones, although, that continues. Russia launched, 60 drones just overnight? 20 shot down, 20 jammed. Civilian casualties reported in Donetsk, Kherson. That's all still happening.
Of course.
But alongside that, there's this clandestine struggle. Individuals become targets. Their elimination sends these powerful, sometimes terrifying messages. These actions are, they're calculated, they're planned down to the last detail, executed with huge risk. It just shows how deeply involved the intelligence agencies are in shaping things, often in ways you don't immediately see on the news.
So this whole pattern, these high-stakes hits from Moscow to Kyiv and back again, it leaves us with a big question, really, for you listening. Thinking beyond the immediate shock of each event, how do these kinds of targeted operations actually change the fundamental nature of this conflict? How does it affect not just what happens on the battlefield, but the very fabric of trust, of security in the region? And what could all this mean for the future of warfare that's fought increasingly in the shadows?